Hi, I'm Kyra. I'm in class 116, so a few months short of a year, and I'm still in EBO training. Um, yeah, hi.
Okay. We have a question from Christy. How did you familiarize yourself with maps and areas that you were not familiar with?
Um, Honestly, looking at the street guides when you get them, just whatever position you're working for that day. Um, I think going to both centers really helps. I know my first day on the floor when I went to the valley, I didn't know anything. So a lot of times it was like repeat or me asking my instructor what streets it were until I got a little bit more familiar. That street guide is a savior. Even now that I'm like RTO qualified, I still pull it up just in case I miss something, or if I have like the first few letters but I'm not sure on spelling. And then also verifying your locations with the LD, or just running your location through GeoFile also helps, but definitely the street guide 100%.
Okay, great. From Cinnamon, were there instances when you believed that you would not qualify? If so, what did you do to change these beliefs and ensure that you did qualify?
Okay, so basically every single day, my fourth DP on the floor, it was kind of getting towards the end of qualifying, and I was like, I'm not gonna make it. I had a really few like really bad like instances. I think at that point you really lean on your classmates, call your friends, call your family, um, talk to your instructor, talk to other people you've talked to on the floor, your supervisors. At that point, it's like you have to kind of lean on people to make sure that you can make it through this process, because even if you think you can't get through it, you're definitely going to get through it. And then just telling yourself, like, like, I've made it this far, there's only a few more weeks left, or I know what to do, and just reassuring yourself that even if you do make a mistake, that hey, it's just a mistake. You're still sitting with an instructor, you have your VCC, you have a supervisor to get you through. And if you feel like you completely failed, you can go to the bathroom, cry for a little bit, come back, just tough it out, because it gets better. Once you're qualified, it's like, oh wow, you don't have to work tied boards anymore. Well, not as often. You have to work tied boards not as often because we're really short staffed, but not as often.
Okay, great. And how did you adjust to having multiple instructors that expected you to adapt to their way of being an RTO?
I think that really sticking to your guns sometimes about like, this is how I set up my board, unless the way you're setting things up genuinely is holding you back. I think also if you know within like the first few days that there's just something that isn't actually going to help you, to really talk to your RTO-TO and your TCO about maybe getting a different instructor early on before you start regressing. I think it's really important that you know that you're in charge of your training, and that while you do want to be accommodating and you do want to be flexible, that you kind of have to make sure that at the end of the day you aren't letting anyone else keep you from your goal, which is qualifying at the end of so many weeks.
Okay, great. From Sarah, what happens when you get overwhelmed or miss a transmission during the very first few weeks when everything's new?
Now for that, I would say that if you're missing transmissions, and especially during the first few weeks, you trust your instructor, and you try and do as much as you can as a trainee, but know that in case of emergency, your instructor is there. They're hearing everything, they're writing everything down. I know I've had instructors take away my streamer, and really like train your ear, but that's what your instructor is there for. They're not gonna let you sink, they're not gonna let you fall. If anything, they'll push you off to the side and take over until it's calm enough for them to discuss things going on with you. But really like trusting your instructors. They're really good PSRs, they're really good at what they do.
All right. And from Eric, what are your tips for a busy day on RTO? What are some windows or forms you have up and ready?
Okay, I have multiple notepads. like notepads are going to save you, because sometimes it's really busy and you aren't going to be able to get to every command, or you're not going to be able to write out every command on your command line. So I have a notepad behind my command line screen. I have a notepad on the screen where my units are, and I have a notepad on top of my DUI where your radio is, because once I load my M cells, I'm just kind of done with that for the day. And I really like using the one that's on top of my DUI. So it's like if you have like a code 6 location, a tow request, and like a follow-up all at once, you can just write the unit who does it in like follow-up code 6 and get your broadcast out, and then type it into your command line later. I think it's really important for you to be organized with your notes so you don't fall behind, and even if it's not necessarily in the command, you know what's going on with your board and that you need to do a little bit of catch up. So your notepads are going to be a lifesaver, and having a notepad where you are most comfortable with and what works for you really saves your life.
Cool. Well, thank you for your time, Kyra. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye, Allison.
Bye.